Malaysia, a country of diversity. Diversity of food, diversity of language, and diversity of people. It's also one of the foremost property markets in Southeast Asia, attracting many Hong Kong and Chinese investors. Why? Let's find out. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to keep up with our regular real estate insights. Number 1. Cultural familiarity. When Hong Kongers and Chinese look beyond their shores, they want to find places that resonate with them. Therefore, Malaysia is very ideal because 21% of the residents are ethnic Chinese. You'll find Canto being used in places like Kuala Lumpur and Sandakan, while Johor Bahru Mandarin is used in 90% of the business transactions in markets. That's a level of familiarity you won't find among its neighbors, like Vietnam or Thailand. Number 2. Investment stability and variety. Many years ago, foreigners could easily fall victim to a local developer's inaccurate marketing. One such case was the 2018 Malacca Gateway project.
黃聽講唔係話要2020年嘅時候落成嘅咩？咁點解而家呢一刻仲係啱啱淨係填咗海嘅嗰啲海沙啫喎？即係你地基都未打，但係其實嗰個項目已經係賣咗出去㗎啦。
However, with strict government regulations, Malaysia's property scene has become one of the most stable in the region. For example, the Housing Development Act ensures that developers meet rigorous prerequisites before they can start a business. And if the developer cannot fulfill the criteria, they will be blacklisted. This is a big plus for Chinese investors who've lost confidence in the mainland property market. Luckily for them, Malaysia gives foreign buyers way more options than other Asian markets. For example, in Thailand, foreign buyers are prohibited from owning any land. At most, they can own a unit in a condominium building. In Malaysia, however, people are allowed to invest in freehold property, and they're not too limited in terms of location either. Number 3. Economic sweet spot. Malaysia is on the cusp of becoming a first world country, unlocking a rising middle class with the means to invest in the property market. This is mainly thanks to its great strategic location. It has allowed Malaysia to average a trade to GDP ratio of 130% since 2010, and an annual growth rate upwards of 4%. But despite its rising economy, the cost of living in the country is still relatively low. Do you know that Hong Kong is 3 times more expensive than Malaysia? In terms of housing prices, it's 5.6 times more costly. Clearly, Malaysia's cheaper property prices and bigger units are more attractive. Now, let's look at 3 cities that are popular amongst foreign investors. As the capital of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur is attractive to many wealthy Arabs and Chinese. Most businesses of any import must go through the city. Branded condominiums in the city center command the highest value, while price tags decrease the further away you go from Pavilion Mall, the Petronas Twin Towers, or any metro station. If there's plans for future development, you can bet that property prices in the area will go up. Penang, Malaysia's second largest city, is home to many expats and retirees alike, with beaches and every day is Sunday and fun day atmosphere. Considering its rapid urbanization, you can look into Penang's suburbs for a long-term, appreciation-based investment. Then, there's Malaysia's Shenzhen, Johor Bahru. Since it lies across a narrow strait from Singapore, its location puts it at a unique advantage for those who conduct business there. Furthermore, the development of amusement parks, college, offices, and residence housing has further incentivized Chinese investors to purchase real estate in Johor Bahru. Investment is all about timing. So what's happening right now that makes Malaysia the place to pump money in? On one hand, many Chinese investors and home buyers are looking outside their borders right now. Hong Kong's pandemic limbo have been driving people out of the city, whereas in China, the Evergrande crisis had left the property market in shambles. On the other hand, Malaysia is finally recovering from its COVID slump as both borders and an MM2H program are being reopened in hopes of attracting more international investors and immigrants. In 2021, Malaysia's GDP expanded by 3.1%, rebounding from the 5.6% drop in 2020. Projection for 2022 expect the GDP to grow by another 5 to 6%, which is very encouraging. Its property sector is also expected to get back on track, with support from government initiatives. Demand had dropped previously because of the suspension of MM2H and the closed borders, but regions like Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and Johor Bahru have shown positive trends in the fourth quarter of 2021. Overall, housing prices are unlikely to drop much as demand for affordable housing projects stays strong. The rental yield hovers around 2 to 5% mark, but could pick back up to pre-pandemic highs of 5 to 8% with renewed economic activity. For investors, it's the perfect timing to jump in as house prices begin showing upward trends and interest rates remain low. MM2H stands for Malaysia My Second Home, and is a special government program that allows foreigners who make property purchases to apply for long-term visas. MM2H requirements vary based on age, and the government seems to prefer old retirees. We'll be covering MM2H in greater detail in a future video. While Malaysia is very foreign-friendly, there are still some restrictions and suggestions to be aware of. Firstly, there are 3 types of property that foreigners are not eligible to purchase. Property built on Malay reserve land, property defined as low-cost or medium-cost affordable units, property allocated to special groups. Secondly, property rules can vary by state, so beware of some specific requirements. For example, each state can have different zones that dictate the minimum housing prices for foreigners. For high-rise property, Johor requires you to put down at least 1 million ringgit, whereas Penang requires at least 800,000 ringgit for those on islands and 400,000 ringgit for those on the mainland. Lastly, other than the down payment, here are some fees to look out. The legal fees for the sales and purchase agreement and loan agreement. Stamp duty fees, which can differ by state. Capital gain tax, which is an incredible 30% if you resell within 5 years of your purchase, but comes down to only 10% after. We'll be doing a series of videos on Malaysia, bringing you tips on mortgage, tax, MM2H, and other property-related information. So stay tuned by signing up to our newsletter and following our social media pages.